What's up, guys? I've been making gold in World of Warcraft since like the original Wrath of the Lich King. Today I'm going to sort of cover the basics of gold making in 2025 in Retail Classic. Going to go through it all. So if you've been doing gold making for a while, this isn't for you. If you're someone who's perpetually poor and want to change that, then this video is for you. Now, I'm not the richest player in WoW by any means. I am way too lazy for that. I gotta live up to my name. What I am is I'm fairly rich. I have about 130,000 gold in Cataclysm, where I did essentially made most of that in the first couple of months of Cataclysm, and then I just stopped, and I haven't been making gold since. In retail, I'm sitting at roughly 90 million, I believe. About 51 million on this realm, which is my main one, and then I have another 40 spread across a couple of other realms. So I'm rich, but not like there are people way richer than me. So I know how to make gold. I can probably take you from a noob to someone who will never have to worry about gold again, which is where I am. Now, the first thing you can do is farming, which is what most like non-gold makers or people who aren't really into this metagame will associate with making gold. They'll be like, okay, you can get herbalism and you can go out and farm. And obviously that works really well. It's not the most time efficient method, but it works. And if you like farming, then it's going to be great for you, because then you're going to spend time doing it. Personally, I hate farming, so I don't really do it. Even in cases where it's actually good for me, where like going out and getting an item, a bind and pickup item would be very profitable. So I am leaving gold on the table because I just don't like farming. I find it very boring. But if you'd like doing it, then you should. There's plenty of good farms. You can kill mobs, you can kill rares, you can farm old dungeons. For transmog, you can do herbalism, mining, fly around, listening to a podcast or whatever. There's a ton of different methods that are available to you in both retail and classic. And they all work. The harder they are to execute or get into, the better. But yeah, it's not really my place to tell you the methods, because I don't know them, because I don't do it. Now, what we are going to go into is what I'm doing, and my bread and butter is in this pane right here, crafting professions. This is where I've made most of my gold on both versions, like the 50 million I have on Draenor. I've made that mostly with professions, the same with Classic and Cataclysm. There are three main types of items that you can sell for a profit. You have gear, which it's a little different on retail and classic, what type of gear you're crafting and what you're selling. But gear, and then you have consumables and enchants. Those are the main types of items. So consumables, items that you use up for a combat benefit. Enchants are stuff you put on your gear, which gives you a permanent bonus for that gear piece, essentially. So in enchants, I'm including stuff like gems, armor patches, anything you put in your items, and that stays on that item forever. Gear is lower volume than the other two, obviously. People don't buy gear all the time. There are 2 or 3 types of gear that you can sell for a profit in World of Warcraft. You have very good high-end gear. So in retail, that's being sold by crafting orders, like you can see in if I unlocked my chat window, then we could see that people here are posting messages constantly about their crafting services, and they are selling max quality items. So obviously this is where the big money is. People care a lot about maxing out their characters, so anything that's at the high end, that's going to be very profitable. The second market you can do is catch-up gear. Now I'm swapping over to Cataclysm, because Cataclysm has a lot of really good catch-up gear. People will often be willing to buy a starter set when they get a new character to level 60. They'll be buying starter items, and this includes the PvP set in Cataclysm. Has been really good over the years for me. In this version of the game, they come out with a new recipes every patch, or they have every phase, so there's new recipes now. This is a great time to get into. People are willing, they're not paying as much, but they're paying a reasonable amount to get some entry level gear and just get their character started, a head start when it hits max level. The last type of gear you can sell is cosmetic gear. So we're looking at transmog. There's an absolute ton of old transmog recipes in the game from old expansions, and some of them are very, very profitable. So if we go to the TSM pane here, for instance, and we go to some of the other professions here, because I have, this is an old character where I have stuff from the ancient past, like this Fellsteel Longblade recipe. 10,000 gold profit. It doesn't sell particularly quickly, but when it sells, it's a nice big profit. You have the same with the Pandaren gear. I don't have the PvP recipes here, so apparently I don't have the good ones on this character, but it's the same with a lot of old pieces. This one, 8,000 gold profit, 4,000 gold crafting cost. There's a lot of very, very good profit available in old transmog pieces, but they do sell slowly. What you want to do is, for looking at good items, high-end, you want to look at best in slot lists, class guides to figure out what items people want. For alt gearing, just common sense, look at pieces you can craft. Is this something you would consider buying if it was relatively cheap? And for transmog, you can look at transmog groups. You can search through Wowhead to look for cool items, or you can just look through your profession window, get a bunch of old recipes, and see if any show up with a nice big fat green in the profit column. Generally speaking, you want to look for at least 20 to 30% profit for stuff that's max level gear that will sell quickly, but higher is better. For transmog, you want a much higher profit margin, in my opinion, because you need to have a ton of items and post them for a long time, so you really don't want your deposit costs or anything to eat into your profits. That's sort of the basics of gear selling. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that if you're selling high-end gear in retail, you do have to get a add-on to spam your message in trade chat, and you need to be able to guarantee max quality to sell your items, because that's the only thing people will be willing to pay for. The next group of items is consumables. And as I said before, that's anything people will use in raid to increase their power for a short period of time. Now, Vantis Rune is one of them, which I have here on my scribe, which is not particularly optimized because I haven't been keeping on top of all of my War Within characters. They don't last long. People will typically go through multiple consumables in a raid night, or if they're doing M+ dungeons, they might be using multiple flasks, which is great because that means people need to buy more every day they play, or every other day, or every third day they need to buy more. So there's always people buying. So they sell really, really quickly. Typically, they're a lot more competitive than gear, particularly on retail, where you're selling into the region-wide auction house. So you are selling into the auction house that everyone else is on as well. So it's like, you're competing with the entire region when you're selling your items, which is going to drive down profit margins quite significantly. That being said, there are a lot of consumables in all versions of the game, and people always buy more, so it's pretty nice. For retail, if you want to do this, you want to go into a full quality build now. If you want to make a lot of gold, if you just want to make a little bit of gold, concentration might still be able to get you some profits, particularly with the patch looming, and people will be buying a lot more consumables than they have been in the recent past. For classic, the margin is thinner as well. But in all cases, you really need to pay attention to your material prices and make sure you're buying them relatively cheap. If your materials are more expensive than the average of other people, then you're never going to be able to compete with them. Consumables can often be in the 5 to 10% profit range, which is really low. And that is on sort of like the pain threshold of whether or not it's worth it. So anything you can do to reduce your costs is going to help you drive this from like, I'm making a little bit of gold to I'm making a ton of gold. That's essentially it. Just look through your professions, find any consumables that are good. Mostly it's from alchemy and cooking, but there are, depending on version of the game, there are going to be some others, like engineering in classic has some absolutely amazing ones. In Cataclysm, it's mostly going to be from cooking and alchemy. The last item group, enchants. and gems and stuff. This is pretty much the same as consumables. The only difference is they're used at a little bit of a slower rate. So what does that mean? It means they sell a little bit slower. You're not going to sell as many. You want to post fewer on the auction house. And that's about it. Glyphs are sort of in this category as well. At least on Cataclysm, people buy them once and then they're done. So you just want to make sure you have a couple of each on you and post one at a time. Anything sells, then it's time to craft some more and get them back onto the auction house. It's very consistent sales. Going to be a lot of different items you can sell. Typically, there's a lot of different enchants from enchanting. Then you have a lot of different gems from jewel crafting. And a lot of different leg armors, other pieces from leatherworking, blacksmithing, other professions, depending on the expansion you're playing. One thing to note is that jewel crafting is a lot better in Cataclysm and Mist of Pandaria than it is in retail, because there are a lot more sockets to go around in the classic versions of the game compared to retail. So on retail, enchanting is by far the biggest one. Whereas on Cataclysm, I think probably gems have a higher volume than enchants in total gold. I would at least not be surprised if that's the case. Then lastly, we have the king of gold making methods. The one where you're just in here and you don't have to leave, where you're buying low and you're selling high. It's called flipping. It can be a lot of fun. So you can flip anything that varies in price, which is most items in the game. The best items to flip in retail, that's going to be old cosmetics that are drops. So this is going to be battle pets. It's going to be old transmog, anything that you can't craft and that you can that's a transmog or a cosmetic item, and that's one-off. You don't want to flip anything on the region-wide auction house. So stuff like materials is just out. There's too much volume. You can't be safe ever trying to flip this. Typically, there's not enough normal variation in price, so you're just taking on too much risk to try to flip this. In Classic, you can definitely, if you're playing the Classic Anniversary realms, you can do material flipping there. It's really, really good. You can buy a lot of small stacks, selling bigger stacks. And it's very, very consistent gold. In Cataclysm, I have no idea because we just got the new auction house. I don't know if material flipping works there. But you can flip gear, you can flip transmog, you can flip high-end gear in some instances, although it's very hard to find cheap items. So this is the most high-risk market there is. Because you're buying an item and hoping you can sell the exact same item for more. You're not really adding any value like you are with the crafting profession, where you're buying materials and then turning that into a finished item that other people can use to get a stat increase, where they can't get that stat increase from the raw gems or whatever. In general, I'd suggest checking out some specific market guides. I have two linked in the video description. One for my material flipping guide, which is really relevant for Classic Anniversary. And then I have one for battle pets, which is relevant for those of you playing retail, which sort of highlights the general approach to a market like this, where you're trying to identify cheap items and resell them for a profit. So those are the main methods. Now, what should you do? How should you go about doing this? Honestly, the best method for you is going to be the one you enjoy. The best one for me is crafting, because that's the one I've been enjoying the most. Why is enjoyment important? Well, if you enjoy it, then you'll keep doing it. Then you'll get better at it. And then you'll learn from your mistakes. You'll be willing to make mistakes. And that's how you can get richer. No one can really teach you everything you need to know except you, by taking some knowledge from me and other people who have been there, done that, trying it out, fucking up, learning from that. So go in, try some methods, look through some of my guides, some of other creators' guides, find some markets you want to try, make some mistakes, just make sure they aren't too big. Start small, start with gold you're willing and able to lose, and just think of it as like this is your entrance ticket to learning this. And eventually, well, you can get there where you'll never have to worry about gold ever again. Thanks.